There are people who notice things that others walk right past. They notice the pause before the answer, the smile that looks correct but feels empty, the compliment that sounds kind but carries envy underneath, the way someone says, "I'm okay," while their face quietly says the opposite. They notice when energy changes in a room before anyone speaks. They feel tension before conflict becomes visible. They sense distance before a relationship actually breaks. And because of that, most people assume they have been given some kind of gift. They call it intuition. They call it emotional intelligence. They call it being observant. But what most people do not understand is that this way of seeing the world can become deeply exhausting. Because noticing more does not just mean understanding more, it means carrying more. It means living with layers. While others are reacting to what is obvious, these people are reacting to what is subtle, hidden, unfinished, unspoken. And that changes everything. A simple conversation is never just a conversation. A joke is not always just a joke. A delay is not always just a delay. A certain look, a certain tone, a certain silence can stay in their mind for hours. Not because they want drama, not because they enjoy overthinking, but because their brain registers patterns that other people never even consciously see. And the strange part is, they are often right. They are right about the fake friend, right about the partner who's slowly disconnecting, right about the coworker who says the right things but quietly works against them, right about the family member whose kindness comes with control hidden inside it. They pick up on the contradiction between words and emotion, between appearance and intention, between performance and truth. And at first, this can make them feel powerful, protected, almost ahead of life. Because if you can read people early, then maybe you can avoid betrayal early. If you can detect tension fast enough, maybe you can protect yourself before the damage happens. If you can see what others miss, maybe you can stay one step ahead of pain. But that advantage comes with a cost, a serious one. Because the mind does not always know the difference between awareness and vigilance. And eventually, what began as perception can turn into hypervigilance. That's when the gift starts becoming heavy. Instead of simply noticing people, they start monitoring them. Instead of listening, they start decoding. Instead of being present, they start anticipating. And once that happens, peace becomes difficult. Because now every little shift feels important. Every change in tone feels loaded. Every inconsistency feels dangerous. A shorter text message feels like emotional withdrawal. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A forced laugh feels like hidden resentment. And suddenly, the person is no longer just living life, they are investigating it. This is where many deeply perceptive people get trapped. Not in the truth itself, but in the constant scanning. They begin to feel like they must always stay mentally alert, as if relaxing would make them vulnerable, as if letting their guard down would mean missing something important. And usually, this did not come from nowhere. People are not born carrying this much alertness without a reason. Very often, this way of seeing the world developed because at some point it had to. For some people, it began in childhood, in homes where moods changed quickly, in families where love and tension lived in the same room, where what was spoken mattered less than what was felt, where safety depended on reading expressions, tone, footsteps, silence, where the child learned to sense emotional weather before it arrived. When that happens early enough, the brain adapts. It becomes sharp, fast, sensitive, always reading, always predicting, always trying to detect what is about to happen next. And this can create adults who are incredibly perceptive but rarely at rest. Adults who can read a room in seconds but struggle to feel safe inside their own minds. Adults who understand other people deeply but often feel profoundly misunderstood themselves. Because here's the part that hurts the most. The people who see through others the most are often the ones no one truly sees.
Other people assume they are strong because they are calm, wise because they are observant, unaffected because they are quiet. But what others do not understand is that these people are often carrying the emotional weight of every room they enter. They notice what others ignore. They absorb what others dismiss. They sense what others deny. And over time, this creates a loneliness that is hard to explain. Not the loneliness of having no one around, but the loneliness of constantly perceiving more than you can comfortably say. Because what are you supposed to do when you notice something no one else sees? What do you do when someone is smiling and you can feel the resentment underneath? What do you do when everyone trusts a person that feels deeply unsafe to you? What do you do when you can sense that a relationship is cracking, but everyone else is still acting like it's fine? If you speak, you risk sounding negative, paranoid, dramatic, or judgmental. If you stay silent, you carry it alone. And that's one of the deepest burdens of perception. You're often forced to choose between being misunderstood and being emotionally crowded by everything you don't say. That's why many highly perceptive people become quieter over time. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they learn that many truths are socially inconvenient. People don't always want reality. They want comfort. They want smoothness. They want the version of things that helps them keep functioning. And the person who sees too much can unintentionally disturb that comfort just by naming what is there. So eventually, many of them stop speaking as freely. They start filtering themselves. They smile when they already know. They nod when they already sense the outcome. They let conversations continue even when they can see the hidden dynamics underneath them. And this silence creates another problem. The mind that notices everything but rarely expresses it becomes crowded. There is too much internal processing, too many unfinished thoughts, too many emotional calculations, too much awareness with nowhere to go. And this can slowly drain the nervous system, because the human mind was not designed to stay in a constant state of subtle detection without consequence. Even accurate perception becomes exhausting when it never turns off. And that's where another dangerous shift happens. The person stops trusting simple moments. They become unable to receive things at face value. A kind gesture is no longer just a kind gesture. It becomes a question. What do they want? Why now? What changed? Affection becomes suspicious. Praise becomes suspicious. Attention becomes suspicious. Even calm becomes suspicious. And once a person gets there, they may protect themselves from deception, but they also start protecting themselves from connection. This is why some of the most perceptive people are not cold by nature. They are guarded by repetition. They have noticed too many patterns, seen too many masks, caught too many contradictions. And after enough experiences like that, the brain starts making a painful assumption. If I stay open, I'll be blindsided. So the person keeps reading, keeps scanning, keeps analyzing. Not because they want control, but because they are trying to avoid pain. Still, that strategy has a tragic flaw. It can prevent surprises, but it can also prevent peace. Because no matter how perceptive you are, you can't build a meaningful life by trying to out-detect every possible wound. You can't fully love someone while examining every shift like evidence. You can't fully rest while treating every silence like a warning. You can't experience life deeply if your mind is always standing outside the moment, trying to decode it instead of live it. And this is the turning point. Because the real issue is not that these people see too much. The real issue is that many of them never learned what to do with what they see. No one taught them how to have perception without drowning in it, how to notice without attaching to every signal, how to sense without absorbing, how to understand without carrying. That's the skill they actually need. Not blindness, not numbness, not less depth. Boundaries. Internal boundaries. The ability to say, I notice this, but I don't need to chase it. I sense this, but I don't need to solve it right now. This may be true, but it is not automatically mine to hold. That kind of mental boundary can change everything. Because mature perception is not about reacting to every hidden truth. It's about discerning what matters, what belongs to you, and what should simply pass through your awareness without taking your peace with it. That's when perception becomes wisdom. Before that, it's just exposure. Raw exposure to every inconsistency, every tension, every hidden feeling in the room. And exposure without boundaries is exhausting. But when a perceptive person begins to develop real emotional boundaries, something shifts. They still notice the fake smile, but they don't let it live in their head all day. They still sense the distance, but they don't instantly turn it into a catastrophe. They still catch the contradiction,